Hi, everyone. May peace be on you all, and welcome to another episode of I'm a Muslim and That's Okay. As always, it's your host, Shella, and I am back with another Gift of the Gab, the very first Gift of the Gab for this season. And I have my guest with me, Leila Hegazy. How are you doing, Leila?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. And I was looking through your bio, and you are, and I was like thinking, how does this happen? But you are an Italian Egyptian American singer songwriter. And these days, you specialize in writing protest songs that are actually cover versions of popular songs. So, how did that happen, Leila?
Well, where to start? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my
You're also one of twins. I saw that. I was like, "Wow,
that's
that's so
right.
cool."
Yes. I'm also in a band with my twin sister, so
Yay.
that's been the project that I've been working on. And then, in light of Palestine and everything that's going on, I've just had so much rage, as a lot of us do,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of feelings. A lot of oh my goodness. At first, it was paralysis, to be honest, and
Right.
then I think about halfway through the genocide. I just had to start writing about it. And I started
Right.
out with these little songs that were really just for me to vent my rage
Right.
and observe what I was seeing. And
Mm.
then eventually people started to find them, these little
Right.
songs that I would put out on the internet. So here they
Right.
are.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, we have a lot of content creators, and you're a content creator too, that are doing different things to bring light to the situation. I mean, you've got like skits and informational videos, all sorts of things. But this was like the first time that I had seen on your social media, and it was on Instagram, I think, that I came across it. And like I'm listening to the song, and it's a familiar song, but the words are not the same. And
Hmm.
how did that come? How did you come about doing that? Because yeah, you also sing, you're a songwriter, but doing that well is so hard.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I think part of why that started is it can feel very much when you talk about Palestine like you're just screaming into the
Mm-hmm.
void. Like, is anybody
Right.
listening? I keep saying the same thing over and over again. It can be a
Right.
little bit like an echo chamber. There's the people who really, really care about it, and then there's the people who are just moving on with their day and they're
Right.
posting photos of their lunch, right?
Right.
So I think it came from a place of really wanting people to care and
Mm.
feel connected to this issue. People who may not even normally be connected to this issue, or maybe
Right.
have been kind of outside of it, or just observing quietly, which there are a lot of people doing right now, just not really
Mm.
sure what to say, not really sure if they're going to say something wrong. And there's a lot of people just listening right now, not speaking. So I had this thought, and I don't even know if it was a conscious thought, but
Right.
that somehow, if they're not listening when we talk, maybe they'll listen when we sing. And maybe they'll listen if it's a
Mm.
song they know. And
Right.
yeah, it's hard to say, because I really, like I said, it started out just being this thing that happened almost organically, like venting
Mm.
my rage about all this stuff. And then
Right.
people started finding it. And I was like, oh, I think this is a thing. And then I started doing it
Mm.
almost every day, and it became kind of cathartic for me. And I
I'm
think
sure.
a lot of people, which I was sort of surprised at, but it also makes sense, because supporting Palestine can feel lonely. And
Mm.
it's so many people have actually reached out to say that they feel so seen
Right.
because of these videos. So there's a whole community of people who feel exactly like I do. And it's actually been
Right.
very comforting in a lot of ways.
Right. Right. And the thing is, there are some artists out there that are doing this like in the form of song, but yours was the first one that I was like, I keep seeing it because, and I think one of the things was because they're covers of popular songs. Like, I think it was like a week or so back, or I don't know, like it just came across it on the Instagram, and you were singing Alicia Keys' No One, but it was your version of it, and it was so remarkably the same as Alicia Keys does it, because you do it on the piano as well. I was like, what? I mean, I couldn't make the difference out, but except for the words. And because, again, as you said, it's a familiar song, people sort of crowd into it. Like they crowd into the song, and then they are exposed to your message. And I mean, here's the thing. How do you do that? How do you take a popular song, and you're a songwriter, yeah, but I think converting the situation as it is, and it's a terrible, absolutely terrible situation, into a song that would be about a completely opposite topic. How do you do that so effectively? Because, like, again, when, like, if I was singing a cover version song of that, I would do it very poorly. Okay, like the I'm off key and the words don't match. Okay, that's the thing. But how do you do that?
You know, it's funny because something that feels really easy about it is that the words are already written. So sometimes there are words that stay in each version. So the particular song you were talking about is actually "If I Ain't Got You" by Alicia Keys. And
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. That's okay. And something that started to happen was I would either keep certain lyrics so that they were familiar, right?
Right.
Or even if I didn't keep the lyric, keep the rhyme. So I would actually kind of start by keeping the familiar final rhyme of each line. And then essentially it's like I'm not starting from zero, right? Because sometimes I actually find it very hard to write a song. I mean, I've been a songwriter for a long time, but it takes a lot for me to actually get to that point where I can produce a song out of thin air. But this isn't out of thin air. There's already a form, there's already a melody, and even there are rhyme schemes that are already set. And a lot of the time I just choose to follow them, and all the words that I have had just bouncing around in my brain as a result of this chaos, they start to come up and we start to make them work. Or, you know, I'll just kind of list a bunch of rhymes and then, we're going to make this phrase work with this rhyme, and because there's this point I really want to get across. So it's like a really interesting writing process that's actually totally new to me because I've never been here before, right? Where it's like the song's already written, we're just gonna kind of turn it on its head, and it's new, it's interesting, it's fun.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. So what's been the response? I mean, I know I'm in the comment section. There's a lot of positive response, but you know, we're on the interweb, and the interweb is a place that's full of not so nice people, and that's putting it nicely. So how has it been overall, the response to your songs?
It's crazy because so at first it was like there was no response. I was like, Instagram hates me. You know, even on TikTok right now, the shadow ban is so bad. Like it's really bizarre. Because, you know, people are reposting the videos and then they're going viral, but like my page isn't viral. It's just so strange.
Oh my God.
But they're trying to help because I'm so shadow banned. But in the case of Instagram, it started out where like no one cared at all. And then when the videos first started getting views, I was on the complete wrong side of the algorithm. So all I would get was hate all day long. Like, and I mean also threatening messages, violent messages, like, and just really scary genocidal comments. That's how it started. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep doing it. And eventually the tide started to turn where I was on the opposite side of the algorithm. So in other words, the watermelon squad found me, and then yay, right. And that was definitely the redeeming moment because that was when it started to be overwhelmingly positive. And now I don't really get a lot of those threatening messages anymore. And to be honest, I mean, if I do, I just report them and, you know, it's the end of it. But, you know, I mean, the irony is just with the censorship that even just Free Palestine will get your comments sometimes hidden by Instagram. Oh, yeah. Whereas there are straight up genocidal comments that you can, I mean, I tend to report and delete them, but they don't get hidden. They're just there on Instagram. People are posting them for everyone to see. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is real. It's crazy. So it's really been a very wild ride, like watching the internet figure out what I'm doing, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So, and the other thing I wanted to ask you, you've done quite a few covers now. There's Taylor Swift, Alicia Keys, and gosh, my brain is all over the place, but there's quite a few artists that you have covered up until now. have any of their representatives reached out and be like, we don't like what you're doing with this popular song? And so, that's the thing. That would be the other thing I'd be like, I mean, because it's their popular song. And has anybody reached out so far?
No, not at all. I think the only thing that really struck me, in kind of an annoying way, to be honest, was, so the first video I had that like really went viral, it was a cover of Killing Me Softly. And I had so many people pointing out to me in the comments like, oh, this is a Jewish person's song, how dare you? And my response to that is like, we don't have a problem with Jewish people here, folks.
Yeah.
Like, it's just such a strange, like, okay, now we're not allowed to cover songs written by Jewish people. I mean, look, if the writer reached out to me and said, all right, how dare you do this to my song? I mean, then we can talk about it. But that has not happened. And we're not going to be anti-Semitic and assume that Jewish people and Zionists are the same, because that's not necessarily the case. And art is art, and it's a living and breathing thing. And, there are artists that, first of all, I'm actually, because they've been silent, I'm choosing to use their song. Because if they're not going to stand for something, the rest of us still are.
Right.
And I don't know if my goal isn't really to get them to see it, although, people have been tagging Taylor Swift in particular. Like this last video, it's up to like 4.1 million views on Instagram, which is like insane. I mean, that's like the most it's ever gotten. But yeah, it's like people tagging Beyonce and Taylor Swift all day. And I'm all for it. Like if they see it, okay. But that's not the goal necessarily, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, I was just like thinking about, in a sense, that, that's the first thing that you fear when you have like a cover that, is speaking about something which technically shouldn't be so controversial, but this is how this weird world operates right now. And then people be like, no, you can't do that to our song. So I'm so glad that isn't the case. So you're doing this right now, and in your bio you had said that you're going to be releasing this as an album. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so honestly, I'm still fleshing it out. I don't just write covers also. So there are some original songs, those are on Instagram and TikTok too. Even just songs that I've written in the car, like driving to where I'm going. So those will definitely be on it. I'm looking forward to actually finishing those because, a lot of these are like minute and a half or less clips. So some of these songs aren't necessarily finished. But yeah, I think what we'll do, and it's hard because I'm producing something every day, almost every day, and it can be hard to kind of like find time to work on the actual record. But we're going to try to finish a lot of these and compile them into an album. I had the thought of kind of just releasing a few like acoustic demos first, because an album takes longer. I technically have some acoustic recordings that I'm just sitting on. We have some...
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't realize what goes into like creating a song. And if I had a next question, like, I guess walk us through this process. Like, you're preparing for an album. What would be the process of this? Because people are like, oh, she just sits on her piano and starts singing. I don't think that's how that works.
No. I mean, well, to be honest, I was hoping that would be how it worked when I first went into the studio. So it was basically like a couple of the songs like, went viral, and then I was like, all right, let's just release, people are saying they want to listen to these. Let's just release them like piano vocal. And then I listened and I was like, okay, it needs a band. So it's not that I don't want to release those just acoustic demo kind of versions. I'm fine with doing that. I've been kind of sitting on them because I still have my doubts, like, oh, is this good enough? It's like typical musician perfectionist brain. But I just know that it could be so much more. And then, of course, at the rate that I'm coming up with these covers, it's like, oh my gosh, like, first of all, how do we even choose which, because they can't all go on the album. So it's going to have to probably be the most popular one. And then the other issue is like, well, all right, we need to find a band. And I have a few people who have sort of committed to the project. But like, studio time isn't free. These band members need to be paid. I plan to donate all the proceeds to the PCRF, Palestine Children's Relief Fund. But that also means that I'm self-funding this project, which,
Right.
and in a time where we really need people donating to Gaza, whether or not the aid gets in, that's a whole other story. But, I'm not in a place to crowdfund this project. So anything that I do at this point, I'm self-funding. So that makes it a little bit complicated. So we're kind of just like ironing out all those things. I mean, I'm kind of hoping to record in March and like really bang this thing out as soon as possible. But it's also like, we have to have people involved in this project who really care about the message, because this isn't just like, let's find some musicians to play. It's like they have to be down with the cause.
They have to be committed, Leila. The thing is, as we've seen with how the crisis in Palestine has unfolded, if you're on one side, assuming the side of Palestine, it gets you into a lot of hot water. How many people are committed to something like that?
Yeah. Well, it's a little easier for the musicians who play on it in the sense that, we don't necessarily have to say who they are if they don't want us to.
Right.
And at the same time, it's more just that, okay, you're going to be in the studio and you're going to be hearing lyrics about things that are controversial, and you probably want to agree with what they're saying. Otherwise, it'll be a miserable experience for you. And we don't really want miserable people in the studio working on a record together, right? So it's it's more just like even for them, for their own success and for their own, I want to say, morale when we're working on the project, that it's like everyone really cares about this. And, I mean, I still think it's really important to pay people. So, it's just a matter of sort of coming up with the money to actually do this. And it's like I said, I don't want to go like, I know this is the kind of thing that you typically do like a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe for, but I just don't feel comfortable doing that given everything that's going on. I mean, there are people who literally have nothing who need that money. Right. So if I can scrounge it up, I'm going to scrounge it up however I can. And, that'll be what it is. So there's just so many moving parts right now, but I'm hoping to get this thing out as soon as possible, really, as soon as I possibly can, given the circumstances.
No, I mean, and good luck to you on that one. But if I had to like go in reverse, not go in reverse, but you're not just one person, as we've said, like, you have a twin sister, and I'm sure like all your family around you, how do they feel about you doing this, taking such a strong stance and then singing about it?
Well, I think they've all really known that I care about this issue. My twin sister is an organizer, a really amazing organizer, and Palestine has been at the forefront of a lot of her work for a long time. So everybody's down with the cause. I think this new chapter for me is a little bit of an adjustment, because it's we went from kind of like this normal, I mean, we still kind of have a quiet life, but to now sometimes occasionally getting a death threat every, so often. So it is a little bit of like a, what's happening, and please be safe. And also like, wow, this is really time consuming. I mean, it's essentially out of nowhere. I have like another job, and I already had multiple jobs before this and still do. So it's definitely just like an adjustment to figure out what this next chapter is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure. But again, I love what you do. If I had to ask you, like, of all the covers you've done so far, which is your favorite? Not by means which is the most popular, but which was the most favorite for you to do?
Good question. For some reason, the one that popped into my mind was the Rihanna cover. And I don't know why. I think it was just that I woke up singing it that morning, and that's sort of often how it goes. Like, I take requests, and oh my gosh, also the Adele cover. That was another one. I kind of just like woke up singing it. And so I take requests, but oftentimes I feel like there's a song like arrives in my head, and I'm like, that's the one today. And it was kind of like that. And also, sometimes they're humorous covers, they're satirical, there's a lot of dark humor in there. And then other times they're serious. And the Rihanna one was serious. And I did it right after the Womanizer cover by Britney Spears, which felt really like, okay, I need to do this, because here I am with this like really intense Britney Spears like vocal fry impression, like look at you, and trying to be Britney.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, so I know we're Weird Al Palestine now, right? Like we're very silly, but also like we know how to be serious. So let's like
Right.
let's focus a little bit. And I think the reason I enjoyed the Rihanna cover so much was actually because of all the space between the lyrics, you know? So there's like a lyric and
Mm.
then there's bum, 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 bum in
Right.
the piano. And in that space in the piano, I got to talk about the occupation and, sort of fill in the blanks because I think one of the
Right.
biggest things you learn when you're posting social media content is to keep posting subtitles so people will keep reading and it'll keep them watching. And that kind of empty space where I wasn't singing was like a really perfect opportunity to go into just a little bit, I want to say a little bit more of the details just beyond the lyrics. And
Right.
yeah, like why are we doing this? Why do so many people care about this? What's going on?
Mm.
People are getting fired from their jobs for talking about this. We're being accused
Right.
of being anti-Semites. Even Jewish people, anti-Zionist Jews, they're called self-hating Jews. Like, we need to talk about this. What's the
Right.
difference between Judaism and Zionism?
Right.
I started that cover out with Zionism is a fever. That is because, that's like the first lyric. Is it ends with the word fever. And I said, I really want to keep that word. And then I felt the need to specify, like, all right, there's a difference between Judaism and Zionism. And we shouldn't have to keep
Right.
saying this, but we're gonna until you get it.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Or something changes.
Oh my
That's the thing.
gosh.
At this point, that threat is just being used as a threat. Most people know that that isn't the truth because literally there's so many Jewish people who are standing up for the cause in Palestine that they don't want this in their name, that they've already been through the Holocaust. They know the pain that exists with a genocide like this. And that's the thing. When their faith and their beliefs becomes how would you say, I don't know, kidnapped in this way, that you are using the faith in a way that it was never meant to be. Like, even if you went back into like any of Jewish scripture, this was never a thing that was supposed to happen or is allowed in Jewish
Yes.
faith as well. So I mean, that's the thing. We, with your song, that it just brings forward that just because it's Zionism does not mean it's about Judaism. It's not about the Jewish people at all. It is an ideology that unfortunately transcends faith. It's mostly about power, as is most things that exist in this world. When it comes to forcefully taking land and genocide, it's all about power and money, unfortunately.
Absolutely. I mean, the founder of Zionism declared it a settler colonial project. So this is not conjecture. It's not something we're just saying because it sounds trendy or cool to say it.
Right.
This is history, and it really can't be
Right.
disputed. And just the amount of comments that I still get, and again, there are far fewer of them now than there used to be.
Right.
But the
Right.
amount of comments that I get that say things like, "Oh, you just hate Jewish people, and
Mm-hmm.
you're using the word anti-Zionist to hide or mask that you just hate Jewish people." And it's just, you know what? There's been such a sad distortion of
Right.
what Judaism is, even just on a cultural
Mm.
level, that leads people to think that. And I
Right.
just I won't bow to it. And you know what? A lot of people aren't. And more people
Mm-hmm.
are learning and unlearning, right? Because a lot of this
Right.
has to do with cultural conditioning too. So there are people who don't necessarily get it yet, which is surprising, but also not surprising. And they
Right.
will, because hindsight is 2020.
Hopefully.
They will, right? When this looks really bad in history books, they're gonna get it if they're
Yeah.
around.
Yeah. That's the thing. And again, this is not to like take away from what you do. It's just that I mean, as you see that this is the most and I even hate to say it this way, publicly documented genocide that there has ever been in history. And yet we have people saying that this isn't a genocide, that this is justified in some form or way. That's why we need you, Leila. That's why we need your voice, because people love a good song and people love your singing, because you have a great voice. And that's the amazing thing about this. That, like I said before, you do it well. And I'm so grateful for that. And before I let you go, Leila, tell my audience, where can they find you and what you do? I mean, in this sort of sphere of protest singing. And plus, you have a band, you do that as well. Where can they find all of that?
Thank you so much. So I'm on Instagram. It's my first and last name, Leila Hegazy, Leila Hegazy. And I'm on TikTok under that same name. It's Leila.Hegazy on TikTok. Please go find me there, because again, the shadow banning is unreal, and I would like for the actual original videos to have more views.
To go viral, and you get credit for it.
Right. I mean, I'm so grateful for the people who are like tagging me, like, tag the creator. But it's like, oh my gosh, it's just crazy, like what TikTok is doing. It's so disappointing. And Instagram too, of course. But yeah, so I'm there, and then, I'll be posting updates about the record when that's ready. And, like I said, any demos that I choose to release, hopefully we're getting one of those out soon, or even just a couple of them in the meantime as a holdover. And I have a project with my twin sister. We're also on Instagram. It's my last name. We named our band after our father, who passed away in 2015. Yeah, so it's Hegazy, Hegazy band, at Hegazy Band. You can find us everywhere. Our music is on Spotify. I know everyone keeps saying, we want these songs on Spotify. And then I want to tell them, we can't raise money for Gaza on Spotify. They don't pay. Spotify. Right. But we are on Spotify through Hegazy Band. Hegazy, you can listen to us there, and we're on all the streaming platforms. But so far, that's pretty much it as far as the protest songs go, because it's all unreleased stuff.
Right. No, but I keep hoping, I keep waiting for a new song to come out. That's my thing. I'm like sitting on the internet, like, has Leila come out with a new cover that I can listen to? It's so fantastic. Not just that it's made well, but it gets the message out. Okay, you can't ignore a song by Beyonce that is by Beyonce, and you love the song, but the words are so meaningful, and it is sending a message. And I'm so grateful that you do that, Leila. I admire you wholeheartedly as a person who unfortunately can't carry a tune too far. So.
Thank you so much. And what you do is also important here. I mean, you're having really important conversations, right? This is what we need. We need more conversations to be happening, because this subject in particular, and so many really important subjects, have been so taboo, and we can't actually properly deal with this stuff if we don't talk about it. So let's talk about it, sing about it, paint, write, whatever you do, just do it.
Just speak. Do it. Yes.
Just do it.
It is the time to speak, and no longer this time to stay silent anymore. And I'm so grateful that you do what you do, Leila. And thank you to everybody who's listened to us and watched us on YouTube. Y'all take care of yourself, and may peace be on you all.